Okay. John Little's daughter was working for COCO until recently. Lucy, a great lassie. Trevor Reed, my father. Andy Hunter and Michael Robinson. Is there any more? Let me see. Is that right? Kate, don't look like a Kate. It looks very like Andrew Emerson to me.
It is me, Donald.
Yeah, that's right.
Computer.
And that doesn't look like an Abby Nelson either. Andy Hunter and Lynn and Phil Smith. So welcome all of you. The interesting thing about Kate, as she's known tonight, Andrew Emerson, he is the co-owner of Solway Spirits, and he provided all the gin free of charge for the gin and tonic gin cart that went round at the golf day for COCO. So he was very generous with that, and it's nice to have him here. Him and I own a few casks. So my name is Donald. I obviously am from Northern Ireland with my accent, but I live in the southwest of Scotland. Grew up in Belfast, joined the Royal Navy and then the Merchant Navy, and made my money out of oil and gas diving. Settled here, southwest Scotland, and it's a nice place to be. This is where Carsten Stair, one of the trustees of COCO, came across to get a run on one of my cars, and stayed for a couple of days, and he was an interesting chap. So welcome everyone. You can make notes as we go along if you want, but you can always go back because a recording will be put on YouTube. If you've got some mineral water handy, that would be good. You can always catch anything up and catch up. If you only want to have half drams, because they're very large measures, you can redo it again another time. But we're going to have a trip around Scotland and see how we like it. So we'll put some slides up, but first of all, you might want to pour as much as you want of number 1. So you can start smelling it while I give you a quick microwave tour of whiskey. Some of mine. If you look at it, you can see it's got a little bit of color to it. So that's telling us that that it's had a sherry influence. So Whiskey Broker, I've provided all these drams, and you'll be able to see who paid for them all, but between my dad and some more friends, we paid for all the whiskey so that all your money tonight goes straight to where it's needed in Africa for these children. They can educate a child and feed them for about 37 pence a week. And if they get the children to school and their mothers, they help them grow vegetables and give them seeds and tools and sexual health advice. And it's making for some very happy and well-educated children. So I know that the money's going to the right place, and it's Steve Cram's charity. So tonight these are the regions, if you can all see on the screen, the regions of whiskey. So Campbelltown, you have to have 3 distilleries to be a region. So there's Islands, Isla, Lowland, where we are here, Highlands, Speyside, and we're going to be having an Isla at the end. We're going to have a Highland and 3 Speysides and 1 secret one. So scroll on through, if you can, the slides, please. And if you just want to put your nose to what you've got in front of you, it's a bit of a secret, and I can't tell you everything about it because I don't know everything about it. But so here's the sizes of barrels. So the smaller a barrel you put whiskey in, the more surface area it has, and the more it matures quickly. So your standard barrel is 200 litres. A barrique's generally from a winery, a hogshead. But below the quarter, there's one called an octave, which is about 50 litres. A puncheon's obviously a big one. A butt, even bigger. I mean, you could get in there and have a bath. It's a big thing. Port pipe can be 550, 600, and a Madeira drum, 650 litres. So pretty much anybody can make whiskey spirit. As Andrew would tell you, it's just like making beer and distilling it. And he's now making rum, gin, vodka, and whiskey. And he and I share some casks in Cretan, just to the west of here. which is where Whisky Broker provided the drams and the prize for the raffle later. So that's the size of the casks. Just jump to the next one, please, Rosie. So the first one, dram 1, I came across by accident. So it's a 5-year-old at 46%. And this bottle my dad and I paid for so that all the money would go to COCO. So if you try and put your nose in it, probably try and nose it before you put any water in. There's no right and wrong answers to it's subjective, what you smell, what you taste, whatever. So everybody's entitled to their opinion. So this one, basically, my friend from Whisky Broker bought in a IBC. We know that it's got a sherry influence because if you look at it, it's got that kind of rich golden color, darker than it would be if it was just bourbon. But there's been more than one barrel involved here, but it's all malt whiskies. There's no grain in it at all. So it's kind of a deluxe malt, but not terribly expensive. I think Andrew sells this at £35 for a 50cl bottle, something like that. But it's been popular with anybody I've shared it with. And I've made a note here that, so it's 46% ABV. I don't believe in drinking whiskey anything less than 46% because it's been chill filtered. And that means it's taken all the oils and fats out, which go into ladies' face products. Well, not just ladies, I suppose, nowadays. But it's like cutting the fat out of a marbled steak, or cutting the fat out of a piece of Parma ham. If you want Coke, drink Coke. If you want to drink milk, drink milk. If you want to drink good whiskey, drink good whiskey. And I'm too old to drink rubbish whiskey anymore. So see what you think. Anyway, give it a little nose. And I've written down here, there's a malty smell, a bit of a forest floor going on. There's no alcohol burn, and maybe some blackberries, but that's just what I've written down here. So take a little sip first, but if you put it around your glass, it's got no legs because it's 46%. Well, a little bit of legs. That's the fats and those clinging to the glass. But just have a little sip, and then we'll put in a little bit of water if you want, and I would recommend you did. And that should open it up a little bit. So I think it's light because it's a great blend of some sherry and some bourbon flavors. It's not harsh in any way. So I've got this device here, which is my Harry Potter's wand, which comes from Norland Glass manufacturer. And you can see right through it. It's basically a teat pipette. So I put my finger on the top, I put it in, and then I can just drop drops so as not to drown my whiskey. So even actually, John here and I were experimenting the other night, and we tried some sparkling water, and that tends to open it up even more. So try it and see what you think. But I think you must put water into all whiskies. However, if you have a whiskey at 40% and you put 1 drop of water in it, it's no longer whiskey. It's British spirit. So to be called whiskey, it must be over 40%, be made in Scotland, be matured in oak, and what's the last one? Matured in oak in Scotland, 3 years old. That's it. So there's another couple of complicated little things about it, but a little bit of water will open up all whiskies.
So if they were matured in anything other than an oak barrel, it wouldn't count as a whiskey.
Sorry, say that again.
If they were matured in anything other than oak barrels, it wouldn't count as a whiskey. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So you know, anybody can make spirit. Andrew will tell you it's reasonably straightforward. He's very skilled at it. But it's the wood, it's the quality of the wood that makes the difference. So bourbon barrels are much cheaper because bourbon is only allowed to be, barrels are only allowed to be used once. There's no such a thing as a second fill with bourbon. So they break the barrels down, put them on pallets, ship them across here from Kentucky and Tennessee, and the majority of whiskey is matured in bourbon barrels. Now, only about 3% of whiskey is single malt. All my casks, and I have rather a lot of them, is single cask, single malt at cask strength. Everything is, but we're going to go on to cask strength after this. But I don't think anybody would be offended by that whiskey. I think it's a nice, easy drinking whiskey. And Andrew sells it if you want some. But I didn't want to chill filter it, so that's why I only took it down to 46%, because I wanted to give you an entry level, but you can definitely taste some sherry notes there. There's that sweetness. It's wrong to say that it's got a caramel flavor, because actually if you take pure caramel, put it in your tongue, it's actually quite bitter. It's not what we think caramel is in chocolate, but I find this pleasant enough. Has anybody got anything to say about it?
I get a lot of like tangerine notes, citrus notes with it as well.
Okay, good.
And also there's, for me, the very back end note, the lingering taste is a very hint of smokiness as well. Just a hint, just a little hint, which I really like.
Yeah, yeah. So there could be a wee bit of island in there, or a peated whiskey from somewhere.
Yeah.
But there's no way of actually discovering where all the constituent parts are. But Andrew and I are filling 3 small casks, Birkin and 2 octaves this week with this at cask strength, and they should actually be ready in a year when it's 6 years old, and it should have even more influence. So we just thought it was such a good spirit, and Andrew, it's another string to his bow in Annan at his distillery. So he's got 4 different types of spirit.
Yeah, can't wait, Donald.
Yeah, it'll be good fun.
Can't wait, it'll be good. Yeah, yeah.
So Andrew's obviously a Cumbrian, but he lives just over the border here in Annan, and the River Annan's very close to. There's Annandale Distillery up the road from him, and his small distillery just in the centre of the town.
Yeah, right in the middle of town. I sneaked over the border and they allowed me to stay.
Good, good. Mr. Liddell, have you got any comment on that?
It's just a nice drinkable whiskey, isn't it? It's just, nice middle of the road, everyday go to. I know you sort of said it's only 5 years old, but I generally don't just go by age statements. I don't hold whiskey back for that. It's just nice. It's a nice, yeah. It's a. I think it isn't. It's not distinctive in any way, shape, or form. It's just a nice everyday go to dram, I think.
Yeah, good. So, if you would like to just rinse your glasses out with a little bit of water, we'll have another look at a slide and we'll start talking about the next one. I've actually got the empty bottles here if anybody wants to see the label, but you will see some slides anyway shortly. But it's that's the welcome dram done anyway. That's us getting up to flying speed now. Right, what have we got here? So dram 1, let's go to the next. So thank you, Dad, for helping me with that one. So here's the second one, and the sponsor, David Rowand, who is an estate agent in Glasgow, and Peter Knight, who's a fellow investor with me from Weymouth, who also has an E-type jug. So look at the strength of this one. So it's a Glenmorangie, which you'll see as a bargain basement whiskey in Tesco and stuff, but you won't see a 14-year-old at 57.5%. So as I said, we're only looking here at 3% of whiskies are single malts, and this is a single cask, single malt at 14-year-old. So it should be a nice whiskey. Could you pass me one over, please, Jack? Sorry, Jim. Number 2.
Number 2, Donald, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, and I think we'll probably got some pictures of the label and stuff. So if you have a little look, it's pale. I'm pretty much sitting in the dark because it's too bright if I put all the main dining room lights on. Oh, 57.5. Have a little nose. And I think it's quite light and fresh. There's a smell of grist, some nuttiness, some floral notes, dried grass, fruity again, which but quite spirity, quite strong. And there's also some marshmallow and vanilla. But you might say you can smell pink petals before the rain, and somebody else say it's white petals after the rain. It's irrelevant. It's just whatever you like and whatever you smell. No staff answer. But because it's 57.5, obviously you're going to get a little bit of spirity. So then add now, if you look at this glass, you could swirl this around your glass, you'll see the legs, you'll see it sticking to the side, the oils and fats that are there, which is the genius of the distiller, that he leaves it all for you to add your whatever you want to be. The Americans put ice cubes in the whiskey, and that's why whiskey's chill filtered to 43 and 40, because it doesn't go immiscible with the addition of an ice cube. But above 46 it will. So this is pretty strong stuff. When it was first made, it was probably just over 70%. And you know, the Angel's share, it's already had 28% gone after 14 years, 2% a year, depending on the tightness of the barrel. But it's a nice place. So Glenmoray is a Speyside distillery, way up top of Speyside, where it goes into the Moray Firth, obviously, Glenmoray. But quite a sophisticated whiskey for its age.
Sorry, Donald, you mentioned there the Angel share. What is that?
Okay, so a cask isn't completely and utterly watertight or airtight, and as the whiskey matures in the bones, different places, depending on they're near the sea or high up a mountain, or like Tobantoul, which is right up the top of the mountain, will mature in different ways. But generally, there's evaporation of 2% by volume every year. So after 25 years, 25-year-old whiskies are expensive because 50% of it has gone to the Angels. Good question. Thank you, Rosie. So it's a light dram, which would appeal to somebody with a sophisticated palate. I'm saying that the palate, you can definitely get a little bit of oak, and there's a well-balanced sort of walnut, citrus, lemon sponge maybe, and a medium body. And the water really brings out a little bit more sweetness to me, but that's just my view. Anybody like to comment?
Definitely get the nuttiness. The walnut definitely comes through for me. And also there's a, I'm not always very good at describing stuff, but I get like the grassiness really comes to the fresh. It's the freshness. It's that fresh grassiness that I really enjoy as well. I think that's a superb whiskey, I've got to say, Donald. That's a good choice. I really like that one.
Well, Martin and I, he's also from Northern Ireland, the guy who has the bond to the west of here, who I introduced Andrew to. Nice guy, and he was generous enough to let us have these at sort of trade price. Can't remember exactly how much each one was, but they're round about sort of 60 or 70 pounds. Not the first one, but this one. But Glenmoray's, you know, it's not a whiskey you'll ever see at cask strength. Very, very, very rare, anyway. But the normal one in Tesco is been coloured. You'll see if you look at it, it's got looks like it's got sherry in it, even though it's just been done in bourbon, and they put I don't know, 3 parts per million or whatever of caramel in it, which doesn't make it sweeter, it just makes it more bitter, and but it gives it a bit of colour. And some people think the more colour of whiskey, the better. I used to think that, I don't now, because if you go to somewhere like Lefroy or Ardbeg, it's straw-like, you know, it's nearly clear. Well, it is clear, but it's nearly white almost, and you can still get lots and lots of flavour. But you know, that's a nice whiskey at 57.5%. So I think that the last one had a finish, kind of a medium finish, where I've said this one's got a longer finish with a bit of tangy citrus and spicy fruit cake, a bit like a sort of Christmas cakey almost, just at the very end.
I just said to my wife, it reminds me of a good quality Christmas cake. So there you go, Donald. I'm with you on that.
Well, and I like that. I like that. That's good. Oh, what's that noise? Oh, that's me with my hand on my keypad. I have discovered that. So, you know, we're blessed to be here tonight, having a dram and helping some folk less fortunate. But to have this kind of quality of dram is a bit of fun. And there's other people haven't managed to get here yet, and the rest have to do it and catch up. But if you've kept half your dram, you can do it anytime you like. And after we've put this up on social media next week, we still got enough kits for the same again. If you want to buy one as a present for somebody and they can just do a catch up, or you want another one yourself, whatever. Whatever we don't sell, I'm going to do a tasting in the local pub and just send all the money to COCO. So every single dram here tonight has been paid for by myself and my friends, my father. Enjoying that one, John?
Yeah, beautiful, man.
John's just really started getting into whiskey, and he comes and knocks on my door once a week and goes away with a bottle of something different.
Yeah, something beautiful.
We have a rummage about in the garage, and seems to enjoy it. Dad and I had one of my first casks was a Tully Barden that Dad and I and Kenny, who's on his way but he's stuck in traffic, owned. And when we broke it down at the end, we made a sign, a house sign from the two ends of the casks for my neighbour here, who was a shareholder, and Kenny. So they actually had their own casks turned into house sign. So the guys made me a table with COCO on it. A guy who recycles our casks, and he's called Wee Dram Barrel Creations. Wee Dram Barrel Creations. You might want to look it up. You can have chopping boards made, signs, tables, chairs. I've got a big Adirondack chair made out of one of my casks. You know, and after they've been used so many times, something has to happen, and you can't just cut them in half and use them all as planters. But everybody enjoyed that. If you don't like it, say so, please. It's all learning.
No, it's good stuff, that one, Donald. Well done.
Good. Can I have another slide or two, please?
Yes, coming up. I was just trying to find a picture of your lovely table.
All right, good. That'd be good. Yeah.
There he is.
So the previous chief executive of COCO, there was two Lucys. There was Mr. Little's daughter, and there was the head honcho. So she won this one here. You can see this. That's a chopping board. Was made for the golf day, and Lucy bid 40 quid and won it. But I've got a bigger one than that. A small barrel, maybe a bit bigger than an octave, that you put legs on. So we chopped the whole top off it and made me one with exactly the same logo, just not toasted quite so much. But if you want a present for somebody, he posted the table, or he sent it by courier for 20 quid, the whole table. So yeah, and he's very supportive of all my charitable works. So I'm just going to rinse mine out. I enjoyed that. So we're still in Speyside. Thank you, John. 12-year-old this time, and it's lost a bit of its strength, 52%, but still, if you look at a lot of independent bottlers, they bottle at 50% because that's what they think, you know, is the sweet spot. So this will still need some water, 12-year-old. And again, right up in Speyside, up near the Moray Firth, Linkwood, quite a famous dram. And sponsored by Andrew and Ron Hornsby, we Rocket Ron, who worked with me for years. Rocket's out in Baku at the minute working, and he has 6 daughters. So when he bought my old Range Rover, he had to put another row of seats in the boot. Quite a character. He's about 4 foot in the fag end. His wife's normal height, and 3 girls are Oompa Loompas, and 3 are normal height. But he's a real bear of a man. He's a tremendous, tremendous man, and always supports and owns quite a lot of whiskey. So let me just rinse that out.
You'd need whiskies with 6 daughters, wouldn't you?
Yes. He's from a place called Deganwy. I think it's kind of.
I know it well.
Is it opposite Anglesey? Is it somewhere there?
Digging.
I think so. But a great guy, very big-hearted man. So let's have a wee look at this nose here. I think it's sort of it's thick. It's got a herbally, nutty, maybe almond, oily, green smell. I don't mean that you can smell a colour, but I think it's probably more a better nose than the previous one. But at 52%, good stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, Donald. I think the nose is quite prevalent on that one. The nose is quite prevalent, isn't it?
No,
But,
you can actually drink that without water, but I still always recommend a few drops to let it open up a little bit. So after this one, what we'll do is we'll take a comfort break, and you can get yourself cheese and biscuits or go to the toilet, whatever you need to do, and then we'll discuss about the raffle later on. But what Rosie will do is, if anybody wants any more raffle tickets, then she'll put a QR code on the screen, and you can just take a photograph of it, and it'll take you straight to buying a strip of tickets. So the bottle that we're doing, Rosie got a picture of it, and she'll show you during the break or whatever. It's a one-off cast strength bottle. Just there is no other. If you put it in an auction site, it would fetch more than the value of the tickets that we've got. So somebody's going to be lucky. But let me try this now with a little bit of water.
And when you're adding water, Donald, is it chilled or is it just room temperature, or what do you prefer?
Room temperature. But it's I don't really care if somebody puts Coke in it or lemonade. It doesn't bother me, as long as they enjoy it. But I would just put room temperature. I buy Evian because it's got a kind of creamy almost taste to it. But round here, if I flush my toilet, I can smell fluorine and fluorine in the water. So I don't want to be putting that in my dram. So yeah, I think room temperature is the best thing. But a bottle of spring water lasts you a long time. Certainly longer than the bottle lasts. Anybody got any comment on that bad boy?
Beautiful.
Yes, I would like to say never ever would I put tap water in my whiskey. I can even smell the chlorine when I turn the tap on, so I would only use bottled spring water, usually Highland Spring if I can get it.
Aye, good. Yeah, great. It's not expensive luxury, but the one thing, my wife's father and brother are dairy farmers, and it does bother me when I go into the supermarket and I realise that a bottle of water is more expensive than a bottle of milk. But don't cut costs when you're using water, because it's they do put a lot of stuff in it. Scottish Water do here anyway.
I get a big oaky flavour on that one, Donald. A lovely, lovely big oaky flavour. I think it's lovely.
Good, Andrew. Good.
Yeah.
When Andrew and I go to the Bond to see, I started my whiskey cask adventure started in the same place as Mr. Little. I did a favour for a man who's now passed away, who was the manager at Brookladdy, and Jim McEwen, the very famous director there, wanted to raise some money for charity, and he needed £1,500, and we raised 12 grand on the night. So when I arrived, I got the Royal Tour. I had my car keys taken off me and told I'd be run home. Wandered around the distillery. They were putting Valences into 40-year-old casks and let me try it. Fantastic time. I bought it's now 21-year-old Port Charlotte from him. And they took me to the side on a Friday afternoon and said, while you're here, buy a cask. And I said, well, I don't have any more money. And he said, well, just phone some of your friends. So I phoned 5 friends and I said, 250 quid each, we're going to buy a cask. And they went, yep, do it. That was on the Friday. And on the Monday, it was announced that Remy Martin Cointreau had taken over and there was no more private casks to be sold. It ended up costing us, after 8 years, £25, bottled, duty paid, everything. And Jim McEwen was selling the sister cask for £270 a bottle. So there is money to be made in whiskey, but unfortunately, there's a great deal of scams out there. A lot of people trying to sell you casks that don't exist. At least with mine, and I break mine all up into shares, so I think I've got 43 or something like that. But I probably only own 10% of each of them, or sometimes 50%. But I can go along and I can touch it. I can get my samples drawn every year, pay the duty on them, see if it's ready, if it's not ready. I had a strange experience recently. Bought some octaves with Ben Nevis, which we're going to try, or which we're going to try shortly, but peated Ben Nevis, and I put them for 2 years in an octave, 2.5 years in an octave, and they taste like a 15-year-old Islay. Unbelievable what an octave can do. So they're being refilled now for Andrew and I, and I've put all them together in 2 quarter casks, so they can last a bit longer in there, because if you leave them in too long, they can be overdone. So we then decided to go and buy a load of octaves, which are about £300 to £400 when they come from Jerez. So we put them into blocks of 4. So we'll leave them in the octaves for 2 to 3 years, 2.5 years, and then we'll put them back into a barrel. So we'll go into a 200-litre one, and they're around about 50 litres. So 4 will go into the 200, and I think we bought 16 of them, something like that, between a lot of us. But it's a quick way of microwaving whiskey, and Andrew can tell you that where our whiskies are kept at Cretan at the Bond, his father and uncle used to own Bladnoch Distillery, which is only just a couple of miles down the road. But it's right by the seaside. You've got the sea, the A75, a field, and then these lovely big bonded warehouses. And if you've never been into a bonded warehouse, please try it sometime in a whiskey tour, because the smell is truly wonderful. Every time I go, I never tire of it. Absolutely lovely. So because it's by the sea, we're getting lovely fresh air, and we're getting changes in temperature, and it's a little bit higher up the hill. So it's worked so far. And I've had 1 leak, but it didn't all leak, so I put it in an octave. And that's out of maybe 80 casks or something we've passed through our hands. But back to this one. It's maybe got a little bit of oily honey and pine, and some malt and almond. I've made a note here. I had quite a long, dry, aniseedy finish is my notes. Maybe right, maybe not. But I think it's a pleasant brand. That's a serious lot of racks behind you there, Mr. Little. It's lovely.
Yeah, we
Really
go
nice.
about 20 years. Well, about 20 years I've been collecting certain bits and bobs. So it's all one distillery. That's the thing. It's all Bruichladdich, but pre-2000 Bruichladdich. It's all old stuff. So
All right, lovely, lovely.
just try and it's just different labels. That's all. So it's largely a lot of it's the same year statement on the bottle, but the label's a bit different because in a strange way, I think it's art, and therefore, you know, a little bit different art, and yeah, it gives me enjoyment, which, you know.
Have you any PCs? Do you bother with Port
Yeah,
Charlotte?
I've got some, my brother-in-law had a PC cask as well. I've got some of that. I've got some PC Valanches and other bits and bobs of PC stuff as well. Yeah.
But my PC that's 21-year-old, because when it was opened up again, I think 2005, Mark Rainier was a wine merchant, so he had access to some fantastic barrels. And mine spent 5 years in a fresh Guyana rum, and then went into a Chateau d'Yquem Sauterne cask, and that's what it's still in.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I don't own all of it, but that's a civilized dram from Linkwood. You not see that much Linkwood because the majority of these distilleries goes into a blend somewhere, goes into Grouse or Black Bottle or Johnny Walker or something like that, depending on who owns the distillery. But you know, that's why there's so few single malt, single cask whiskies around. I enjoyed that.
It's my favourite up to now, Donald.
John thinks that's his favourite so far.
Yeah,
Anybody else like that the most?
I'd say so. Yeah.
How are you getting on, Rosie?
I'm very
This-
well, thank you. Sorry, I'm just juggling screens here.
This is new to you. Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed that one. It was really, really different with a little bit of water in it.
Good. Can you put up maybe a wee COCO thing for us to have a look at?
Yes, so we've done our first three tastes. So yeah, I just want to echo what Donald said before, but you know, thanks to everyone for supporting the event. Thanks to Donald for even suggesting the event and getting all the whiskies together and the sponsors and everything like that. We really appreciate it. For those of you that don't know me, I am the operations manager at COCO, so I support the fundraising and the events and the UK side of things, the volunteers, the staff, the logistics, finance, a little bit of everything. So I'm the one who's been bugging you via email for a couple of weeks. And we also have Pip on the call here tonight. So she is the other half COCO. She is our impact and partnerships officer. So she coordinates our overseas projects. So she's actually working with the partners in country, doing all the important stuff, which is where your funding goes. So what we're actually doing at the moment with those funds is we support sustainable sources of education in really remote rural areas. And by sustainable really is the key. So we're not just coming in as white saviors, we'll throw some cash around and we'll build you a classroom and then clear up, because that is not always the solution that's needed. What we do is we really listen to the needs of the communities and help them address what their barriers are to education. So perhaps it is classrooms, perhaps they do need the infrastructure, perhaps it's supporting parents to have enough food on the table so that the kids don't have to work, they can go to school. Perhaps it's creating safe spaces like dormitories so that staff and students don't have to walk 20 kilometers a day to and from class. So it's really kind of bespoke solutions to the really rural communities we're working with. So yeah, all the funds from tonight's event and other COCO events are going towards that. So we really, really appreciate you all being here, and we appreciate Donald for hosting and all the sponsors for getting involved. We're going to take a little break now. So if you want to get yourself a little bit more water, get yourself some biscuits or whatever, that's fine. I'm going to play a little bit of more information about COCO. And then there'll be an opportunity, as Donald said, to buy some more raffle tickets. Thank you to those of you that have bought them already. Still plenty of time. We're going to draw the raffle right at the end of the evening. So if you want to get your tickets, it's £5 for 5 entries to win the bespoke COCO logo single malt whiskey that I have here. So yeah, we'll have a few minutes
What
break.
whiskey is it, please, Rosie? Just read it out.
It is a Speyside single malt, distilled at Strathmill, aged for 12 years, single cask.
Right, and the strength, bottom right-hand corner?
Strength is 53.3%.
Lovely. Okay, look, the reason I got behind COCO is that a school friend of mine is married to one of the trustees. But when I did my due diligence on the charity, and I ran the Great North Run with Rosie this year, I discovered that it runs on almost zero admin costs. UNICEF has 90% admin costs. The chief executive is on 1/3 of $1 million, which doesn't happen here. So all the money you've spent tonight is going to help make brighter futures to East Africans. So that's why I'm right behind it. And running the Great North Run at 63 years of age, when you were told 3 years ago you had 8 weeks to live, took a bit of doing, but I'm right behind them. So that's why I'm doing this. So take a wee comfort break, and you'll see something come up here now, and then we'll talk about the rest. I pass them across to you, Joe, and the other three.
So.
Remember the way she made that? You take a picture of that, just takes it straight on. Give me your
Yeah,
fiver. Do you want to-
I haven't brought the phone with me. It looks a good deal. £5 for 5 entry. Yeah.
She's got some fancy online wheel that spins around the names and
Oh, a digital.
Yeah.
What's the
very good,
word?
isn't it? Like the Wheel of Fortune. kind
Wheel
of
of
thing.
Fortune. Digital.
Oh. So Andrew's back. Can you hear me, Rosie?
Yes, reading you loud and clear.
Okay. Would you bring up another slide if you can find the one on my table or the one of me at the distillery with the 4 stills behind me? You can find those.
Oh, yes, I can find that one. So I'm just having some technical difficulties here. Just be right with you.
No problem. Not as many as I had trying to send you that thing today.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Really nice dog, yeah. Oh, you're wet. Is it raining?
Right, absolutely flashing down.
Okay. Is everybody ready to start? Lynn and Phil Smith, are you back? There we are. You have to unmute your mic there, bottom left-hand
Yeah,
corner.
I'm back in. I just didn't change the name when I logged on, so Lynn's not actually here. It's just I'm good to go.
Back in the building. Andy Hunter, are you there? Can you unmute your mic? Lovely.
Yeah, we're here.
I actually played rugby at Golden Gate Park. I see you've got a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. I think it is anyway. I played rugby when I was there with the Queen in 1983. Abby Nelson, would you like to unmute your thing? I can see you there though. John Little's unmuted. Dad, you need to unmute yours. Michael Robinson.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, everybody ready to rock. Okay, so picture there of me at Deanston Distillery. Now, Deanston's a really nice dram. One of the best value sort of whiskey for the masses, if you like, is their virgin oak, which so it's got no bourbon, no sherry, nothing, but it's lovely. So there's the 4 stills. I was up touring about, and because I drive a Morgan, you have to have a big bushy moustache, and it's only a moustache if it's visible from astern. So there we are. So that was me there. It's a lovely place to visit, and you can even fill your own bottle, and they have lots of miniatures and 2 or 3 different levels of tasting. So it's just near Dunblane, which is between sort of just outside Stirling on the way towards Perth. It's on the River Teviot, and I would recommend it for a visit if you're ever there. But and that's their 4 stills. So obviously made a copper, and it's the reflux that comes from this. The shape of a still changes all the flavors. But I'm very fond of a Deanston, and Dad and my father-in-law went there for a tasting. I was offshore, and they went in the local. I'm a member of the Dram Busters Whisky Club, and the Dram Busters took a bus tour up there. And when they get back, I think my father-in-law had all his bones removed. I think he was the rubber man. So I missed it, and they did it all in the boardroom and everything. So they had the $90 tour, and I was away working. There we are. Have you got a picture of that table yet, Rosie? Did you find it?
The table seems to be eluding me. I can only find the chopping board, but I'll keep looking.
Okay, it's not the end of the world. Okay, put up the next one then for me, please, Rosie. Dram number 4. So we're going to the Highlands now. I've done there's a reason for the order of these that become apparent. So we're on the west coast now, the Great Glen. So Loch Ness empties into the west coast at Port William, and that's where Ben Nevis is below, obviously, Ben Nevis. And it's as you drive past, if you drive past in a car and you put your window down, you can smell the sherried whiskies. It's really, really marvelous. So it's 51.8% and 10-year-old, another rare fella, because most of it, although I've got 3 octaves of it, which I put into quarter casks, but they're heavily peated. But this is a different nose, 51.8%. So I'm claiming it's zesty with waxed citrus peel, dried berries, earthy vanilla, and toasted oak. But what do I know? That's just my view.
It's very rich and complex, Donald. Very rich.
It is. It is. It's an interesting fellow.
Yeah, that's a little beauty. That's my favourite so far. That one. That's a COCO.
It's very nice. It's not your. That's why I wanted to get all these as single cask. Well, apart from the first one for obvious reasons, but the other 5, to try and find something different, and some thought went into it, and certainly I like that one. It's nice. So a wee bit of water in, please, if you would. And it's quite oily. Nutty, malty and sweet, with a little bit of candied ginger I was getting, and maybe butterscotch, apricot, and butter biscuits. And on the finish, I was getting a bit of brittle coffee, pears, waxy fruit, black peppercorns. It sounds like chili gold and hollyhocks the side of the road or something, but I did spend a lot of time working this out. And it was time well spent. That, even though it's 51.8, so it's not as strong as the Glenmoray, but a wee bit of water, it's still got that but nice spirity flavour. That's the genius of the distiller again.
It's very smooth. It's a very smooth spirit, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm pleased with it. How are your 2 whiskey stills doing so far? Are they up and running?
They're up and running, Donald. We've
Very
got stuff
good.
in casks.
So you said this to me that making whiskey is you just make beer and you distill it. So now that you've done it with your 2 different stills that you've bought, where do they come from? Italy or somewhere?
Spain.
Spain. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you share with us just a 1-minute masterclass in what you do?
Maybe I was oversimplifying it, Donald.
I'm quoting you.
I suppose a lot of the process of the mash is very similar to brewing beers, but generally, when you're making a spirit, you do want the mash to be a bit of a stronger alcohol content, obviously, just for what's the word? I can't think of the word now. Sorry, you caught me on the hop there. I wasn't expecting you to ask me any questions.
I'm sorry.
It's all to do with efficiency, obviously, of the mash itself.
Yeah.
So we are at the moment using. They're all going to be. I'm hoping this is the plan. Our hoping is they're all going to be single cask, single malt whiskies. That's the plan. But all in very short releases, obviously small releases. Because there's a couple of reasons why. One of the main ones is the experimentation of doing different products really interests me. As Donald will know, we have a huge range of products already, and it's the experimentation that really floats my boat, and that's what I like to do. But also, we are slightly restricted by the size of the premises as well. We may need to take a floor or two out to get a bit higher up.
Really?
Because at the moment, we're going to be putting casks in the dunnage style of racking and not the palletized system, because of we don't have the room for that at the moment. It's just as simple as that, really, Donald.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's lots of exciting things going to be happening. I've got far too many ideas for the space I've got. Because as you know, I like experimenting, and that's what's coming around.
So if you look up Andrew's website, it's called Solway Spirits. And he does about 30 something different flavors of rums, and mainly gins. You can have strawberries and cream, raspberry ripple, you name it, he can do it. And he makes chocolate as well. But one of the great things he does, he'll do bespoke labels for you. So if it's somebody's birthday or something coming up, see something you like on there, and him and Rose will make you a bespoke bottle.
Yeah, we do a lot
Post
of
it
that.
to you. And he's done a lot for me for my Distinguished Gentleman's Drive, Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, all the COCO charity labels. And Rose is actually very skilled and artistic at producing nice labels. If you want something affordable for a present for somebody, he'll post it to you.
Yeah,
And
we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have a really good team at
yes.
Solway Spirits that are really quite skillful and very, very helpful. And we
Yeah.
try our best to help, well, just anybody generally, but we're very proud to be associated with a lot of the charity work that Donald does, and he helps us out immensely. I can't thank Donald enough really for what he's done for us. It's superb. And hopefully I can repay you in some samples of some of our whiskies very soon, Donald.
I'm looking forward to that. But of course, they won't be whiskey for a wee while.
No, not for 3 years and a day.
That's it. So anybody, anything to say about that last dram there, the Highland Ben Nevis at 51.8% and 10 years old?
Very good.
It's completely different taste with the water in, the drop of water, a hell of a lot sweeter. The other ones were different, but that was just, it's notable to me. It's noticeably different. Noticeably, yeah. It's a different whiskey with water in completely.
Yeah, it opens it all up, isn't it? It's an interesting dram. But you see, Ben Nevis is not something you'd walk into a shop and ask to buy, because 97% of it's gone into a blend somewhere. You'll never ever see it again, and it belongs to a multinational. But that's why I've gone down the single malt, single cask route, apart from the first one.
Who owns it, Donald?
Say that again.
Who owns Ben Nevis?
I don't know. Can somebody Google that? Somebody got access to it? I don't know who owns it. You see, there's my cousin was chief executive of Diageo, and he's now chief executive of White and Mackay, and he was the rascal who shut Kilmarnock, but most notably he shut Port Ellen. And now they're wanting to open it up again, and he's a highly successful accountant. So is his brother, but I mean he's made an awful lot of money. Guy from Coleraine in Northern Ireland on the Northwest 200 track. So his mother and my mother were first cousins. So I suppose he's my first cousin once removed or something. But typical baked bean counter, it's all just down to money. And he says that when I told him I was investing in whiskey, he said that was just a liquid asset. So there you are. It's got no soul.
Japanese own it. Nikka.
Was it Suntory or something like that?
Nikka.
Oh, very good. Nikka's quite nice, actually. Quite like Nikka.
Yes, Donald. So I've just Googled it. I've just popped it in the chat. It's called Nikka, and that was acquired by Nikka in 1989. So it's been under Japanese ownership since the late 80s.
And the oldest whiskey distillery in Scotland is Glenturret, which now belongs to Lalique Glass. So their decanters are absolutely yummy. And they did me one for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, engraved it for me and stuff, and gave me it at cost price, which was very good. And the interesting thing about Glenturret and Glengoyne, and they're not that far apart, is the only distilleries that distill in one region and mature in another, because the road that separates the distillery from the bond, one is in the Highlands and one is in the Lowlands. So that's an interesting fact for you. But Lalique owning them, but the oldest distillery, legal distillery, let's say, is Bushmills. I think it's like 1680 or something. And it's owned by Jose Cuervo, the tequila people. And a friend of mine used to work there, so I used to get nice little discounts. But Dad and I came by some interesting whiskey just before Christmas, and he got that for his birthday. We've got some Joey Dunlop whiskey. And believe it or not, it's Scotch whiskey. It's not Irish whiskey, but it's for his foundation. So we're quite lucky to acquire a bottle of that each. Just nice to look at anyway. Okay, let's, anybody anything to say about that last one, the Ben Nevis, the Highland?
My favourite so far. Got bags of flavour. And there's much more oak on it as well.
Yeah, good, good. But there's a real maltiness to it, isn't there? Right, there's no rush. If I'm going too quick, just slow me up. But can I have another slide, please, Rosie?
You certainly can. Just to go over what you mentioned before, the company name Solway Spirits, just so people have got the spelling there. And I have found the photo that you sent me of your
This is the
marvelous
top, complete top of a barrel, which he chopped about a foot off it and then put legs on it. This is the guy from, you can see at the bottom, Wee Dram Barrel Creations, handcrafted in Scotland, a place called Port William. Good guy, supports all our efforts. Really, really good guy, and he's in the inshore rescue there it's an independent rescue craft. Very, very, very nice chap. So have we look up on his website, mention my name, you might get a discount. And he can do anything for you, same as Andrew can do anything. Put it on a label as long as it's legal. He can do that for you. So here we're Ben Rinnes. We're back to Speyside now. That's not as old, but it's going to be different. So it's an 8-year-old at 52%. But Ben Rinnes is a nice whiskey. I'm just saving a bit each of mine so I can have another go at them. I've come across another, well, Andrew and I came across a guy at our whiskey festival, and he's called Damn Good Drams. But nice whiskey, two boys that were made redundant during COVID and decided to set up on whiskey. They were both aircraft engineers. Bright boys, full of go, but their stuff's quite expensive. And even trade price to me, he sent me some samples yesterday. The cheapest one was £78 for something of this quality. Yeah. And that was a 9-year-old Madeira finish. Now, let me explain the difference between maturing something in one thing and a finish. So John will explain to us about, he's got I think it was an Oloroso from memory, cask from start to finish. And so it's a really, really, really lovely sherried whiskey. But often people will do finishes. So you put it in your cheap bourbon barrel and you leave it in there for 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 years, whatever you want to do. And then you might put it into a smaller barrel, which has had maybe port in it, maybe sherry, red wine, whatever. So the ones that Andrew and I are having filled this week, he went to Aldi or Lidl or Tesco or somewhere, and I went to something similar, and we got some boxes of red wine, some Rioja, and Andrew got some cream sherry, I think from Tesco maybe, and we put them in for 6 weeks, and we bribed the guys at the Bond with biscuits and buns, because on my way there I go into a place called Irvin's Bakery, a family that lived just down the road from Dad originally, and they have a big home-style bakery. They make 1 million mince pies a year, and they have a bit where they have the broken ones, or there's not the right full amount in the packet, and I get them for like £1 a packet, so I might squander as much as like £9. And I think for the Christmas mince pies it was about £16, but there you are. And every time I arrive there, there's big smiles from everybody in the warehouse, the bottling hall, the girls in the office, everybody, and it's very cheap. So we give the guy the stuff, and every day he walks past our barrels, he gives them a kick, and then you have to, whatever you put in to sweeten it, you have to take back out again. I would have been quite happy with cask strength whiskey to have put it in on top of it to get a really big finish, but it's illegal. So he kicks them about for us for 6 weeks, and then he fills them up for us again. So that's what we do with a finish. So John, would you just tell them about that lovely one that you shared with me, the Brook Laddie?
I'm trying to think.
It's Oloroso, isn't it? I think.
Which one
Hang
did
on, it's over here. Let me look. See what it says. It's definitely sherry.
I think which one I gave him now.
So this was a 2001 that.
Right, yeah, that was just a fresh sherry cask, which we did it from we bought the barrel like yourself in when we visited there in 2001, and it's not a finish, it's just a fresh sherry, I think that was, and we bottled it at 10 years old.
Anybody can see the colour of it. It's
yeah, we did some at cask strength,
like
61.8, is it 61?
This is 61.8. Yes, it's absolutely delicious.
And then we did some at 46%, so we watered some down to 46, and we just did 2 different versions. And so we bottled that in 2011. Lucy's got a cask which I bought in 2003, so that's 20 years old now. We're still thinking about what to do with that. So that was in a refill sherry, so it's taking its colour a little bit longer, but it's it's just 20 years old, so it's dark now. But yeah, we haven't finished. We haven't put them into a finished cask. We're just leaving them in the original cask at the moment.
That's lovely. That's lovely. But if you, I mean, a cask of that's probably 200-litre cask or something. If you bottle a few cases for yourself or whatever, or for the wedding or whatever, and then just sell the rest, it'll pay for the wedding. No doubt about it. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Are you still heartbroken that your darling daughter's going to get married?
No, no date has been set yet. So whilst no date's been set yet, that means the money's still in the bank, doesn't it? So we will see. We'll see. It'll happen next year. Yeah.
Your profession is casinos, isn't it?
Yes. It's.
I don't think I've met anybody.
Property division of one of the casino firms. Yes.
But I think that's a lovely whiskey we're having there, that Ben Nevis.
There's a pink. I was going to sort of say there's a pink tinge to it. I take it this has been finished in something, hasn't it? Then.
Let me just have a read of that.
There's quite a big sweetness in it, isn't there?
I haven't tasted it. It's just the pinks. Just maybe not.
Hang on. Ben Rennis. Yes, you're right. A hogshead transferred to a Coonawarra winery, Australian Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet wine barrique. So that's where you're getting your colour from.
Yeah,
okay. A bit of a red wine influence. So, well spotted. I'm sitting in the dark, so I can't really see the colour. But that's why I chose this one, to get a wee bit of variety, because even though it's another Speyside, it's totally different to the other two, and it has that sweetness. there at the end. So what have I written here? Waves of molten vanilla, milk chocolate, spiced fruit compote, touch of caraway, and the finish with waves of vanilla and milk chocolate with spiced fruit compote and a touch of caraway again. I'm getting carried away with this caraway, aren't I? But dried fruit at the start, the festive spices. So you know that's your Christmas cake in a dram. Very much coming from the finish of the red wine from Australia.
Yeah, it's a lovely soft citrus to start for that one. Beautiful, really nice.
Pleased with that one. Pleased with that. But if you look up the whiskey broker, he's got about 30,000 casks there, and he's just built another warehouse. So he'll probably go up to about 40 something. He has a little online shop where all these came from. And if you're ever passing, if you go in from sort of Carlisle to Stranraer, past me, and it's right on the side of the road. And he's got a little shop which is smaller than John's office there. Lots of bottles, and he's an easy guy to deal with. But these were coming in about 50, 60 quid each, something like that. Oh, hang on. Who sponsored this one? Oh, I sponsored these last two. But I'm very grateful for everybody else who did sponsor, Dad and Andrew and the other people. But that's a sophisticated dram. Like, Abby, you sound like you've got quite a light palate. Talk to us about that, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not putting you on the spot here. Just what did you think to that? If you don't want to say anything, just don't.
I like it a bit less than Ben Nevis, and I think I think you touched on it. It's the caraway. I think that's a really good description for this, because I was sort of thinking, is it a bit resin, or is it there's something else there which I couldn't quite pinpoint? But yes, I think the caraway is a really good one. I think it's that sort of like spicy herbal note, I think. But yeah, really interesting dram. It tastes, I don't think it tastes quite as young as 8, probably, but yeah. But so
it's 8-year-old, yeah.
Yeah. And so did you say, I missed what you said, is this one finished in a Australian wine?
Cabernet from Coonawarra.
But matured in a bourbon?
Yes. Hogshead, and then transferred later on to yeah, exactly that. So it's it probably what Martin will have done is he'll have had these casks and he samples them all the time, and he'll just think, you know, it's 8 years old and it's not really doing enough for me, so fire it into something else just to give it a wee finish off. But honestly, the sea air and stuff there is fantastic, and that's why I've got shares in so many casks. It's I mean, I'll never be able to drink all the whiskey I've got, but somebody will somewhere.
I'm sure you'll try, Donald.
I'm sure you'll help me.
I will, yeah.
So we're going, I had to leave this last one very much to the end. Number 6, please, if you'd rinse out your glasses, if you're ready to go. This is a revelation.
I love Colila.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, even though it's Diageo. Okay, so Colila is on the Sound of Islay, on the east side of Islay, just above the ferry port at Port Askeg. So it's just below Bunnahabhain. And although it's not I think Bunnahabhain's Burn Stewart, I think he also owned Deanston. But this is a Diageo one. So you will see 90% of Colila is 40 and 43%, or going into, going in a tanker, because there's only one distillery on Islay that bottles on the island. The rest all go off in big tankers on the ferry, which seems criminal really, but there you are. So really nice spirit from Kalila, lovely spot there, right on the Sound of Islay. Years ago, we were in a hurry in a warship to go south, and my captain persuaded me as navigator that we would go through the Sound of Islay. The tidal stream was running north to south. I did a security message on VHF to say that we were passing through because we couldn't have got through if there was another ship anywhere near it. The ferry said they would wait for us. We were in a hurry, so we did a full power trial. My mate Oily, who also has some whiskey with us, he was the chief engineer, or the marine engineering officer as it was. And we went through there at 34 knots in a Leander. So that was fairly exciting for a ship that was, I suppose, as old as me. But we went through like a cork out of a gun, anyway. And past the two distilleries, which have both got their own little piers. Now, Bunnahabhain has had a bit of money spent on it now, because when you went there, it was like Colditz and all the windows were smashed. And it was terrible. But they've invested a wee bit of money in it. So Bunnahabhain make Black Bottle, which is one of the best of the blended whiskies, because it's got their whiskey in it. Now, I had a cask of a thing called Stoicia. So Stoicia is, when they come to going to shut down the distillery for a month, they all shut down for a few weeks. They run a peated whiskey called Stoicia. So it is Bunnahabhain, but it's just peated to go into their Black Bottle. And I've still got some bottles of that. I think I've got a cask of a case of it left. But so back to Kalila. So just right opposite Jura, where the ferry goes across to Jura. I'm not a fan of Jura whiskey, but doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. But Kalila, I think, is a lovely whiskey for something that's not an independent. You know, it's for the masses to go into Johnny Walker. But let's see what we think of this. So we had to leave this to the end because it's a bit different. So I reckon there's a bit of a smell of red grape, orchard fruits, smouldering embers. I think you'll get that. And a coastal sea breeze. So there's a bit of smoke here from Isle of Peat. But of course, Kalila is not a heavily peated whiskey, but it is peated. So you've got that, you know, a barbecue on the beach thing going on. So have a wee smell. You can smell it's totally different to the others. Strong. It's a 52.1%. Ooh. Ooh.
Amazing finish.
Oh. So don't be frightened to put a wee bit of water in, but don't drown it. So I've put, there's a bit of burnt florals, orange peel, golden syrup, and peat smoke is what I think on the palate. And then spicy oak and apple aromatic smoke on the finish. But this has got the longest finish probably of all the ones that we've tried.
Super oily, really good texture on this. And
Yeah.
a really nice, like, sweet smoke balance.
Yep, good. That's not for wee boys to be playing with, is it? It's lovely. No, I'm fond of Islay whiskies in general. There's 10 now, I think, with Ardnahoe opening. 9 or 10. Whereas, you know, years ago there would have been dozens and dozens of mainly illicit ones, but it's the friendliest island I've ever been to. Everybody waves to you in your car, even the policeman. It's I've been over for the Whisky Festival twice, and it's a lovely place to visit, although it just takes forever to get there, but it's unless you fly. And there's a nice hotel right at the airport. But I recommend a trip to Islay to any of you who have not been.
When is the festival? We've yet to go.
May, sir. May.
And each distillery has a. I went over in a 3-wheeler actually, and I came back with it down by the stern with bottles. Because the 3-wheeler's really cheap on the ferry, and I'm miserable. So I went to Rugladi, I went to Ardbeg, I went to Lafroig, and I went to what's the one in the northwest? Belongs to the Wills family.
Kilcone.
Kilhoman, yeah, go. And it's got the most awful road to it. So that family, the mother, her dad invented the Land Rover Defender, and the father was WD&HO Wills, the tobacco people. And he had 3 boys, and the first time he went away for a weekend, he left the boys in charge, and then he burnt the place down while they were watching the Six Nations rugby. But Kilhoman's a fine dram. I stayed in a place called Lochgorn House. One of their whiskies is called Lochgorn. A lady who used to be a florist in London for Elton John, and she was called Chatterbox Flowers. So she still had a van that said Chatterbox Flowers, and she had this kind of Man Friday fellow who cut the grass and helped with her little, well, quite big guest house. And with the humour that they have on Isla, the guy that did the garden was called Lady Chatterbox's Lover. Oh, it's very funny. They're a funny lot out there. It's really, really lovely. But she said, 20 years ago, Elton John would spend £1,500 a week on cut flowers. But that's a lovely drug. Well, it's not lovely to everybody, but it's a complex, interesting thing. You don't have to like it, but I just wanted to put something at the end to give it, final curtain kind of thing. Now, Rosie, you're pretty new to all this. What did you make to that? Don't say TPP.
I have to confess, I have fallen behind. I've been juggling stuff in the background here, so I'm a few whiskies behind. However, I do seem to remember had Kalila, is that how you pronounce it?
Kalila.
Kalila.
It means sound of Isla. Kul, C-A-O-L, and Ila is Gaelic for Isla.
So I like the Islay whiskies for the smokiness, but I seem to remember a few years ago when I tried it, it was a little too much for me. So I'm interested to try it again. Now my taste have changed as I've got older. I'll try it with a little water because I don't think I did that last time.
But it's nothing like Lafroig or Ardbeg or the peatiest of the lot is one from Bruichladdich, which John and I like. But they make a run of one called Octomore, which is the spring that provides the water so they do Port Charlotte, which is peated, Bruichladdich, which is unpeated, and then they do Octomore, which is heavily peated, and sometimes about 250 parts per million, when Ardbeg and Lafroig would be 30 or 40. So you need to take your socks off when you drink it. But this is a sophisticated, so this and Bunnahabhain are probably the easiest of the Islay ones to get on with if you don't like the really big phenol flavours. Andrew, do you like that?
It's a very complex whiskey, but I've got to say it's not for me. It's just a tad on the peaty side for me, I've read. But I can definitely see the pleasures that other people would get out of that.
But here again, this has had a wine barrique finish. So that's where you're getting the sweetness and stuff. So it was transferred into a Rishka Winery, Barossa Valley, Shiraz to finish it. So that's where the unusual finish is there. Obviously started off just in bourbon, but it's displaying the wares of Whiskey Broker and what they can do and what they can't do.
There's a definite sweetness towards the end of that as well, but it does have a long lasting finish, doesn't it?
Is there any questions? Does anybody have anything to ask before we spin the wheel?
Probably a very basic question, Donald, but I have a place up on Skye actually, and I suppose I've always understood that islands are peaty and Speyside are sweeter. Is that still the kind of case, or is that moved on?
Not all island whiskies are peated. Now in Skye you've got Talisker, and some of it's peated, some of it's not so peated. But when you go to Islay, they're generally peated apart from Bruichladdich. Now there's other island whiskey. I was offered, believe it or not, I was offered 4 casks from the Inland Revenue that had impounded 4 casks of, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically Highland Park, which is from Orkney. Now, Orkney whiskey is sweet and honeyed, a bit like Irish whiskey, a bit like Bushmills or something, but not peated, you know, different. So you've got, what's the other one? Scapa up there too. So they're island whiskies, but they're very different to your Islay. And now Skye's nice. And then if you take the ferry from Uig in the north up to Harris, they now have the Herach, which is the means man from Harris. So Harris and Lewis is all one island, but Big Kenny, who didn't make it tonight because he was stuck in traffic, used to play football there, and you can actually kick the ball from one side of the island to the other and land in the sea. But they've got a new one. They did very well with a gin, a beautiful bottle. So they're just released their whiskey. And from the very north of Lewis is a place called Ness, and I did a bottling for my friends up there, and their football team is now 40 years old, and they want 84 bottles for the people who played in 1984, one of which was Big Kenny, who Dad's very fond of. A lovely big chap, the clumsiest man I've ever met, but he's lovely. So yes, back to it. In general, island whiskies will be more peaty than many others. But this one I was telling you I had heavily peated recently, Ben Nevis. It's not even whiskey yet because it's not 3 years old, and people thought it was like an 8-year-old Islay. So people can look for these things.
Donald, can I ask a question?
Please.
So why traditionally then are island whiskies generally peated? Is there a specific reason for that?
Because they used the peat from the bogs to fire maltings, and the water is, you know, it's brown. The water is very, very peaty. I mean, I remember Dad and I going fishing in Donegal years ago, and you know the waters were full of peat because people cut the peats, and they still do on Lewis and many islands and up on Shetland they cut the peats. But because they had peat, they didn't have to bring coal in, so they didn't want to bring puffers down from Glasgow all the way around through the Crinan Canal out there. They wanted to use the peat, and the peat is used for the smell in the maltings without a doubt.
We drive past Ben Nevis distillery every time we drive up to Skye, so I'll be dropping in, I'm sure, in the future to try it with us.
Yeah, try their heavily peated. It's magnificent. Yeah, really magnificent. Skye's a lovely place. Lovely.
It's wonderful, yeah.
Really, really good. Any other questions or comments, please?
So Donald, I prefer number 6 by far, as you probably realise. What sort of price is that?
60 quid maybe. Something around that. He might still have it if you go on his whiskybroker.co.uk and look to the shop. But if you want it, Dad, next time I go there, I'll pay him cash. It'll be 50 quid. None of you work for the Inland Revenue, I hope. and there's a man listening here tonight that says that when he dies, he wants his cortege to go past the Inland Revenue Office, and he's going to open the lid and give them the finger. You can guess who it is. Okay, any other questions, please? Okay, Rosie, can we come to the raffle, please? This is a lovely bottle.
Yes, of course.
There we are. So Strathmill, 12-year-old hogshead. Look at the colour.
Oh, wow.
What you know, or probably already knew, it's clearly a bourbon, 53.3%, and gifted by Martin and Jane at the Bond. So only one in the world. Bound to be nice. So I think we're going to have funny
for the raffle.
So
we have a fancy little spinning wheel
gadget coming up here somewhere. So we've raised more than £1,000 tonight, and there's probably still £1,000 worth of whiskey there. So
very good. Yeah.
all your names are there. So And all that money is going to go and do some great work. So,
So our
like Wheel of
raffle winner
Fortune.
is, it's Wheel of Fortune.
Well done, Rosie.
Hooray!
Andy Hunter, who's online on the Golden Gate Bridge. You lucky, lucky man.
Oh no, we're in Newcastle. That's just a picture.
So you've got, between 100 and 150 quid's worth of whiskey there. And I'm sure if you arrange to meet up with Rosie, she'll pass it over to you. She has in her hands. And congratulations, you've got to be in it. Your generosity has been rewarded. So thank you, everybody that bought tickets. Have you got a figure that we have raised tonight by any chance, Rosie? Or just a guesstimate?
So our running total at the moment is approximately £1,300.
Excellent.
Which is absolutely astonishing. Thank you so much. This is the first time we've done this. Yeah, absolutely thrilled.
We'll add at least £1,000 to that with what's left of the, because we bought 2 of each of the 6 bottles. So we've still got some kits. So if anybody particularly liked it or wants it, contact Rosie and she'll or go on the link and buy some more if you want it. But thank you very much for your contributions. Thank you for your attendance and thanks for your generosity for this very worthwhile charity.
Thank you, Donald. I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Donald. Yeah, thank you, Rosie.
Thanks, Donald.
Thank
Rosie
you.
enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, all of you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. I'll be sharing a link to this soon. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Rosie.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Ta-ra.